What is going on, YouTube family? So today I am back for the first time in a couple weeks, and today I'm going to be talking about The Incredible Hulk, originally released in 2008, which came out right on the heels of Iron Man, also released in 2008. So today, you guys, I'm going to basically talk my personal opinion, how I feel about this movie, if I think it's a good movie, and ultimately, you guys, I'm going to give it my ranking, my verdict based off of my 5-tier system. As you guys know, this is awesome, which is the best, really good, meh, disappointment, and absolute garbage. So to start, this movie, before I talk about the movie, I'll talk about some things I really do like about the film and some things I don't like. The portrayal by Edward Norton, I think it's really good. Especially Bruce Banner. I dig his Bruce Banner portrayal. I think that it was pretty good. I do like Liv Tyler as Betty Ross. I like their relationship dynamic, how she's kind of like on the run with him, so to speak, trying to basically, keep him out of harm's way, keep him, away from her father, Thunderbolt Ross, who's always trying to hunt down the Hulk, always trying to take down Bruce Banner. I like the Abomination, even though I don't believe they call him Abomination in the film. I really do enjoy Emil Blonsky. I think his motivations could have been a little bit better, but ultimately I do like that the film, from his perspective, his story was a lust for power, which ultimately leads to his downfall, basically, which in real life happens a lot of times, just about every day. I dig the CGI, the improvement of the Hulk. If anybody has seen the Hulk released in 2003, starring Eric Bana, I don't like that movie, and I don't like anything about the Hulk in that film. The CGI is, even when it came out, when I saw this movie when it came out, you guys, it was bad. Um, I like Thunderbolt Ross. I like that the army is still after the Hulk, like most of the time. Um, I'm trying to think. What don't I like about this film? I don't like I said, I don't like Blonsky's motivations as much. I think they could have been better. I think maybe we could have had more time with him. I felt it could have built. I really personally believe, and I'm like the only person who I've ever heard make this statement, and I could be wrong about that. But I personally believe if his motivations were slightly better, or if we spent a little bit more time tweaking his character, I think he could have been one of the three best villains in Phase 1. Obviously Loki is number one. And then I guess by default, I would say the Red Skull would come in number two. I really think that Abomination could have sat in that number three spot comfortably, because the villains of the early MCU were so disposable. And I think there was a lot of missed opportunities there. And I think maybe if they had played on, because, ultimately in this film, spoiler alert, because there's going to be full spoilers in this video, I think if they had made it more where Blonsky and Bruce Banner are like the same sides, but just different sides of the same coin, I really think that this could have made the film a little bit better, because you have heads and tails, polar opposites, and I think that was a missed opportunity. You don't really feel that so much with what they were doing with the two characters, other than the fact that you have Blonsky, who is trying to, let me start with Bruce Banner. You have Bruce Banner, who's trying to get rid of the curse of the Hulk. And then you have Blonsky, who sees this as an opportunity, who sees this as power, who welcomes it, almost looks at it like, why is Bruce Banner trying to throw this gift away? I think this could have been better expanded on, you guys. I think it could have been done better. That's what I'm saying. I think that could have provided some interesting aspects for this film to go in, and I wish I had something to compare it to. Honestly, I can't really think off the top of my head, but I've seen films that did this, a better way. So that's a negative. Ultimately, the even the ultimately one thing that I think hurts this film for me a little bit. And you'll see this when I do my ranking for Phase One, the 6 Phase 1 films. Ultimately, it just doesn't feel like it belongs. Like, and granted, I understand that this was only the second film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they were still gaining their footing. But based off of the post-credit scene in Iron Man 1, they knew that the Avengers was getting teased. They knew that they wanted to do Thor, Hulk, Captain America. And this film just feels like the stepchild of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It doesn't feel like it belongs. It's not on Disney Plus. Throw into it, you have the issues with Edward Norton, which ultimately led to him not coming back to reprise the role in the Avengers in 2012. So you watch the Avengers, and it's kind of hard sometimes to put two and two together and see that this is the same version of the character, Mark Ruffalo and Edward Norton. And that, to me, is a little bit problematic. And then throw into it, ultimately, you guys, this film, I don't want to say is boring, but this film is really kind of like, you lose yourself in this film a little bit because there's some times where nothing's really going on. And I understand that when we watch an Incredible Hulk movie, we watch Iron Man, Spider-Man, Batman, whoever, we're not going to get the alter egos for the entire film. We're not going to get straight superhero action. Now, with Avengers, Endgame, and Infinity War and Civil War, we got more of these things. So I respect that. But it's just like, it almost feels like watching Godzilla, where the movie is called Godzilla, but he's only in the movie for like 14 minutes. Like, that's what it feels like with this film a little bit. And it can be a little frustrating because comparing it to Iron Man doesn't appear in the first Iron Man films that much, but it's still an entertaining movie from start to finish. Yeah, there's maybe some scenes that could have been better, but ultimately there's a lot of things in this film that it doesn't feel like it had a wow factor. Like, there was nothing that stood out other than like Edward Norton's portrayal, Liv Tyler, Thunderbolt Ross, and the action scenes. And some of the cinematography in this film is really good. I really do like some of the scenes. Like, there's a scene like earlier in the film where Dave, for whatever reason, Bruce Banner had to go to this college. He was communicating with Samuel Stearns, who, spoiler alert, if you never read the comics, becomes the leader. And for whatever reason, the army finds out where he's at. They jump on him, and he gets gassed. They're trying to take him out without provoking the Hulk. It's an awesome scene. Like, you just see him trying to break out, and ultimately we see his eyes go green. We know he's going to turn to the Hulk. It leads to a huge fight scene that is done really well. That's shot really well. The CGI looks pretty good. It's awesome. It's an awesome scene. But outside of that, you guys, this movie just gets kind of, like, I won't say it's boring, but it does get kind of boring at times. There's times where nothing is going on in this film, and you got to kind of remind yourself this is an Incredible Hulk film. Like, and, that's not good for me. I mean, I'm sure there's people who love this film, and I'm just not one of them. I like it. I think it's a decent film. I'm not in love with the film like I am with Iron Man. I was not a big Captain America or Thor fan before I saw Thor, which came out in 2011, and Captain America, which came out in, I think, 2011. Maybe one of them came out in 2010, guys. I can't remember. Or maybe they both came out in 2011. But I saw those movies, and they made me more they made me fall in love with the lore behind those characters more. I had always liked the Hulk, but this movie didn't do it for me to ultimately become, I got friends who they're like, the Hulk is the best Marvel character, in my opinion. This movie didn't do that for me, and I don't think it's a bad movie. It just fails in some areas. So this movie does skip over the origin story pretty much. Like, they touch on it a little bit. We see when Bruce Banner first has the accident, and I do like that they talk about the super soldier serum, and that's how the Hulk basically became the Hulk. Bruce Banner became the Hulk. I like that. I like that the fact that the army is always after him, and I do like at its core that it kind of feels like a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde situation, and the Hulk always feels like that, except for Infinity War and Endgame, and I'll talk about that when I get there. But I do like that ultimately he's trying to just do the right thing. He's trying to get rid of the Hulk because he sees the Hulk as dangerous. And the conclusion of this film, I like where they went with that story, and I'll talk about that when I get to it. So ultimately, the Bruce Banner and Betty Ross, his love interest / girlfriend, they're ultimately trying to get rid of the Hulk. Bruce Banner feels it's a curse. It's dangerous. He can't control it. So about halfway through this film, they meet up with this person that Bruce has been talking to off screen, on screen, the whole entire film, via text, email, all these cool things. And we soon discover that it's Samuel Stearns, who, as I said earlier, in the comics and other media, becomes the leader. And he basically says that he can get rid of the Hulk for Bruce Banner. And they do an experiment, and he almost transforms, but ultimately he doesn't transform. So it gives the impression that the Hulk is gone. And the army breaks in, and they take Bruce Banner captive. But before they do, Samuel Stearns gets exposed, I think, to Bruce Banner's DNA or something like that. And it's implied that he becomes a leader. We never really see anything that later, he never appears in later films. You know, maybe he will one day. I'm not sure. I can only hope. And basically, when we get to the ultimate, you know, like the climax of the film, Blonsky, who, like I said, and guys, I feel like this just could have been done so much better. I feel like they could have, you know, they could have built his motivations a little bit better. Like, if I was director, I would have, of the film, and I'm not criticizing the director, I just think they could have gone in a way with this where it felt kind of like brewing, like on the surface, it kind of felt like, okay, this was coming, like there was something that was gonna, like, outside of seeing this, you know, the trailer with the Abomination, you don't get a sense that, well, this is our big bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's one thing that I think you can't do with superhero films, and even like James Bond films. Like, you kind of have to, and there's exceptions to the rules, you guys, sometimes. One might say, you know, like Spider-Man Far From Home, and I'll touch on that in another film. Another video. But I think that we kind of, the characters, the bad guys' motivations have to be clear, and they have to make sense. And I think what Blonsky wanted kind of made sense, but like how they go about turning him into Abomination, it almost just kind of felt like when we finally got to it, it just felt like it was rushed. It didn't feel earned to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, his transformation, like, if I could compare it to anything, I compare it to like The Dark Knight in 2008, which came out the same year. Harvey Dent's transformation into Two-Face, it kind of felt earned. It didn't feel like it came out of nowhere. There were themes going on in the background where it was like, okay, it made a lot of sense. And obviously Two-Face is a better villain than Abomination, but ultimately, guys, it just felt rushed to me. I felt like they could have done more with it. Like I said, I would have loved to see more of the aspect, because they're like, Bruce Banner and Blonsky are like polar opposites, and I feel like if they had just touched on that a little bit more, if those two characters would have had more interactions before, just, you know, they have a couple, but it's not nothing that I feel like builds his character motivations ultimately. So he basically becomes Abomination, and Bruce Banner decides, well, the only person that can stop this guy is the Hulk. And he decides to jump out of a helicopter backwards. And before he does, Betty basically makes the argument like, hey, you know, what if you don't transform? We just saw that, you know, you might have been cured. Like, what if you don't transform? So he jumps out of the helicopter backwards. He falls, and we don't see him transform. He almost seems pretty surprised by this fact. Couple seconds go by, and you know, Thunderbolt Ross and everybody, they think he's dead, and ultimately we see him transform. He comes out of the ground, the crater that he made transformed into the Hulk, and it's a really good scene. I like that the fight scene takes place in Harlem. There's all hell is breaking loose. There's chaos going on. Bullets are being fired. Tanks are everywhere. Civilians are running. And you basically have the Hulk and Abomination going at it. We see the Hulk do some classic Hulk things like turning the glove, like breaking a car and turning them into punching gloves. Like we've seen this in Hulk video games and comic books and so many things. So that was awesome. Like I said, you guys, the fight scenes in this movie is really awesome. They're really shot well. They look well. They don't look cheap. They're practical. You know, even when you see like the Hulk in the same shots as normal civilians, it doesn't really look cheesy like the 2003 Hulk film. So there are a lot of good things about this film. And ultimately, it looks like Abomination is going to win, but Hulk, pretty much after a little bit of a lengthy battle and having not having the upper hand, he gains the upper hand. He's able to get a chain, and I think he starts to choke out Abomination. And ultimately, what stops him from like killing him right there is Betty crying out to him, you know, trying to plead to his humanity, basically. And he ultimately stops. And the Hulk basically takes off to parts unknown at the time, basically to, you know, not cause any more problems, not to be the monster that everybody thinks he is. And we get a scene of Bruce Banner, and I think it says like 30 days later, I'm pretty sure. And he's like in British Columbia, or he's in another country, like in a secluded like area. And I'm pretty sure it's British Columbia, you guys. And it basically says something like 30 days without incident, and it's talking about the Hulk. And we see him meditating. We see candles. We see him breathing, doing all these techniques and things. And then we see him kind of like smile and smirk, and his eyes turn green. And the movie basically implies that he's gaining control of the Hulk. He's now embracing it, and he's now learning how to control it, because he's probably going to never get rid of it. And I really like this, you guys. It feels earned. It feels I think it was a nice conclusion to our solo outing of the Incredible Hulk. It's a good ending, and ultimately we get a post-credit scene which further sets up the Avengers Initiative idea and this bigger world that to this day I'm still in awe how Marvel and / Disney was able to create this world. So we get a post-credit scene of Thunderbolt Ross in a bar somewhere, and he's basically like depressed, sad, you know, wallowing in self-pity, drinking and all these things. And we see none other than Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., walk into the bar. Him and Thunderbolt Ross have a couple of exchanges, and ultimately what ends up happening is Tony tells Thunderbolt Ross that we're putting a team together, and you know, he gives a smirk, and the film ends right there, and we go to credits. And honestly, you guys, I really did like this post-credit scene, and I think this is a decent film. I don't hate this movie at all. I think, like I said, I think it's way better than the 2003 Hulk film that had nothing to do with this one. They're not set in the same universe, same timeline, or anything like that. I think it was a better film. I think the CGI holds up much better than that film did. I think it's a solid superhero film. I just think that in the shuffle of things with the villain, I think this story could have been better. I think that there were some missteps. I think there were some things that could have been done better, and I stated them earlier in this review. And ultimately, you know, I'm a Hulk fan. Hulk isn't my favorite, you know, if I'm being completely honest. Iron Man is my guy in terms of Avengers, and then it's probably Thor. Those are my two favorites. But I do like this film, and my only regret is that I wish we had got a sequel. And maybe we will, you know. Maybe they'll give Mark Ruffalo's version of the Hulk, which again is the same version as this one. Maybe they'll give him a Disney Plus show. You know, we can only hope to see more solo outings. Maybe the Hulk will just continue to be an Avenger and you know, background character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But my hope is that maybe one day we do get a Hulk film. Maybe we get a Hulk She-Hulk film. I don't know. But ultimately, you guys, I don't think this is a bad movie. I think it's a decent film. I just think it's missing the wow factor, and I think they took a couple missteps with abomination, and I think it just gets boring at times, honestly. I'm not saying it's a boring movie, it just gets boring at times. So based off my 5-tier rank system, you guys, I'm going to have to rank this one. This is the first movie I've done where I've ranked it at this this rank. I'm going to have to give it a rank of meh, middle of the road, C+. Average. It doesn't do much to stand out. It doesn't do much to make me want to be more of a Hulk fan than I already was. Like Iron Man definitely did that for me. Captain America and Thor. It just ultimately is missing a lot of wow factor. That's one of the things I think is missing. I think this could have been one of the best in Phase 1, honestly. In my time, you guys growing up, the Hulk was probably like one of the most popular, if not the most popular Avengers character. In the 90s, like, people knew who Iron Man was. They knew who Thor was, but I think the Hulk was more popular. This is my opinion. So ultimately, you guys, I'm glad this film got made. I think it was a good film. I think that we could have seen a little bit better. Sometimes I think, what if Edward Norton would have got another chance to play the character? But then again, I do love Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. So you know what, you guys? Like I said, I'm going to rank this as meh. And I hope you guys don't hate me for that. Join me in the comment section below. Let me know. Do you agree with my ranking? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm far off? Like, just let me know what you guys think. If you guys think I'm wrong, like, join me in the comment section. Sway my opinion. Give me reasons why this is one of the best superhero films of Phase 1 in your opinion. Let me know. So you guys, join me here next Monday when I talk about Iron Man 2, released in 2010. Join me this Wednesday when I talk about Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And join me on Friday when I talk about Friday the 13th, Part 2, originally released in 1981. So catch me, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you guys. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe to this video, guys, if you can. Appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one.